Okay, hello everybody, and you're welcome to Python Made Simple. In today's video, we'll be looking at some statements that helps us to add some amount of logic to our codes. So that will be the if statement, else statement, and the elif statement. Okay. So now with the if statement, we use the if statement to run a code if a certain condition holds. Now, when these conditions are met, what we've put in the expression session is run or expressed. But when these conditions are not met, it is either neglected or you get no output. So now, considering this example on our Python script. Now, if 5 is greater than 2, print 5 is greater than 2. Then print end. This second end isn't part of the if statement. So let's save that and run and see what we have. Okay. So as you can see it clearly, 5 is greater than 2. Python has gone ahead to check if 5 is really greater than 2, which is true, and so it has printed out the statement because it has met its condition. Now, trying this other example, we can say that we can assign a variable to some items. So let's say x is equal to 9. Okay. X is equal to 9. So I'm saying that if x is greater than 3, it should print x greater than 3. To print x greater than 3. Also, if the same x is greater than 11, it should print x greater than 11. So let's save this and run. Good. So with the first if statement, the conditions are met. That is, the value we've stored in x, which is 9, is greater than 3. And so because those conditions are met, it goes ahead to print the statement within the if statement. Now, with the second if statement, the conditions are not met. That is, 9 isn't greater than 11, and so it doesn't print what is within the if statement. It neglects it. Okay, so in Python, you can also have your nested if statement. So what that does is you have a block and you have two if statements in that block. I can say, let's say, a senior if statement and a junior if statement. So for example, with what I have on top there, so if odd is greater than 5, print odd is greater than 5. Now, if odd is less than or equal to 10, print odd is less than or equal to 10. Or let's say print odd is between 5 and 10. So now, what happens here is that it first of all checks if the conditions in the first if statement is correct. Now, if the conditions in that statement is correct, it goes to the next block of if statement within the senior if statement and executes that too. So once odd is greater than 5, it goes to the next one, which is it should check if odd is less than or equal to 10. Then when that is done too, it prints out your output or your expression. So for example, let's change this to 9 and run and see something. So when you run, you realize that the first conditions are not met. So because of that, it doesn't go to the next line to execute what is in our next code. So next, let's just try this other example too, and we can have a clearer understanding of it. So let's say num is 14. Sorry for the noise in my background. I'm trying to get it fixed, so probably we wouldn't be hearing that in our next video or so. So let's say num is greater than 10. So if num is greater than 10, print 10. And now we are saying it should check again if same num is less than 12. If it is, it should print 12. And within that if statements too, you should check if num is equal to 14. And when it does, it should print 14 as if the conditions are met. So let's run this and see. There's an invalid syntax. Good, so I didn't put my colon. So let's run this again. I'll indent my block. Okay, so what happened here is we've assigned 14 to the variable num. So with the if statement, it should check if num is greater than 10. When it did, it realized that yes, it was greater than 10. So it printed the expression we asked it to print at the end. Now it should check if num is less than 12. It checked that and realized that num isn't less than 12. So it didn't print anything. Now, the remaining part of the code wasn't executed because this particular block didn't meet its condition. So it's omitted or refused to run the remaining part of the code. So that is it for nesting of if statement. So now with the else statement, every if statement block can have only one else statement. Now these two statements can be chained to make multiple checks. So you use them together to make multiple checks. So now for example, let's using the variable name num, let's say if num is equal to 1, I should print 1. isn't it? Else if num is equal to 2, I should print 2. Else Okay, so we have a variable called num, and in it we've stored the number 3 in it. So once Python to check if num is equal to 1, now Python checked and realized that num isn't equal to 1. So if it is not equal to 1, using the else statement, it should then check if num is equal to 2. Then if that 2 is not equal to 2, it should then check if it's equal to 3. So it realized that yes, num is equal to 3, and then it printed out the expression. If it happened that, let's say the last num was 4, you realize that it goes to the last else statement and prints out num is not 3. Okay, so next in Python, we can use multiple if-else statements, but this really makes the code very long and then very difficult to understand sometimes. So usually it's advisable you use the elif statement, which makes your truncates your code, makes it shorter, easy to understand, debug, and do so many other things with. So now using the elif statement, let's try this with our previous example. So num being equal to 3, if num is equal to 1, print 1. Elif num is equal to 2, print 2. Elif num is equal to 3, print 3. Else print num is not 3. Now the else statement at the end of the code is called upon when none of the previous conditions are met, and so it brings the code to an end. It runs the last code and then brings it to an end. So looking at the output, you realize that num is 3, and so it has printed 3. Yes. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comment section. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.